Square Enix. There you go. Something that you can talk about, Mr. Black. It won't just be me motor-mouthing for the entirety of this segment. Square Enix looks like it's streamlining the hell out of itself as it sold off many of its Western studios this week to Embracer Group for $300 million. So if that $300 million already sounds cheap, wait until you find out what $300 million bought the Embracer Group. So if you don't know already, the sale happened to include Crystal Dynamics, Eidos, and Square Enix Montreal. All three of those studios, and there's some 1,000 or 1,100 employees, for $300 million. That would bring intellectual properties like Tomb Raider, Deus Ex, and Thief, and a hell of a lot more to Embracer's already massive and growing library. However, I'll put this caveat in here. Like nearly all of Square Enix's stable of developers, these three have had small profit margins, despite producing relatively well-received games. I mean, if I say the new Tomb Raider games, Mr. Black, you would know they're pretty good games. It's not like they were bombs. Deus Ex, it's almost legendary now. The last one that came out, everyone's been waiting for another one. These aren't games that are necessarily looked down upon. With that being said, the profit margins are still very small. I mean, sub 5% in some cases for these groups. Square Enix as a whole, to give you an idea of just how they're doing, so the entirety of the publisher, their profit margin is 14%. 14%. That is the company that owns and operates Final Fantasy XIV, by the way, the second most popular MMORPG on the planet, with one of the largest player bases. And so I'm going to assume that 14% margin is almost exclusively carried by Final Fantasy XIV. I can't imagine how any of these other games could possibly be making so little money, despite selling millions of copies apiece. That's gotta just be really shitty management, which I think is actually just Square Enix in general as of late, to be honest. Their management has been kind of ridiculous. Do you think, Mr. Black, do you see, now that you know that they've got a 14% profit margin and they're sold off most of their Western developers at this point in this deal for only $300 million, do you think that this is Square Enix preparing themselves to sell themselves off to another company by streamlining and getting rid of some of what they consider to be deadweight to make themselves more attractive for a buyer in this crazy time of everyone buying everything?
I mean, I don't know.
Or do you think it's just them trying to trim the fat in general?
I think they're just trimming the fat. I don't see Square Enix selling. I mean, I could be wrong. I mean, they might have just sold off a lot of their stuff that is just really not profitable for them. And now they're just holding on to the stuff that makes some money. So like this deal gives them $300 million. And also their profit margins might now be 40% now that they got rid of the other stuff.
Well,
right?
they were all breaking even, so their profit margin won't really go anywhere like dramatic. It wouldn't jump from 14 to 40. They might get to like from 14 to 18, which is better.
I mean, it's better.
It's the right direction.
And if you have $300 million as well to reinvest, and
yes.
I mean, 14%, like, that's
rough.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it depends. Like 14% could be a lot if we're talking like billions of dollars in revenue a year.
Right.
And you're getting 14% of that after everybody's paid, after, everything is done. Your margin is 14%. Okay. Yeah, it's not like a grand slam, but I mean, it's not like you're making 14% of $100,000 a year. If it's in the hundreds of millions or billions of dollars, that's a decent pay, especially if the CEO is being paid, all employees are being paid, everything is being done. That might not be so bad, but I don't know. I don't think you're going to see Square Enix getting sold off. It doesn't make sense. Like, why wouldn't they just sell everything together instead of selling like a portion over one place and then shopping around for the other? I mean, I don't know.
So the $300 million that they're getting from this, they already have a public statement on what they're reinvesting it in. So we know what they're doing with the money, Mr. Black.
Oh, okay. What are they doing?
The hot three topics here, Mr. Black, or the $300 million is that they are going to immediately reinvest it in the cloud, which is a term that everyone loves to hear that nobody really understands what that means.
If I hear NFT,
but wait, blockchain and NFTs.
Okay, yeah, rip that money, and it's gone.
And it's gone. Speaking of which, it's gone just like the NFT market, which I don't know if you've seen the actual NFT market.
And it's gone. So, anyway.
It was nice. They probably liked to look at the 300 million before they burned it right in front of themselves, but all the same, there you have it. Do I think that they're going to sell off the entirety of Square Enix? I don't know. I think that it's more likely that they will because they did this sale. And the current environment that we have, I don't know if it's a given. I think that.
Yeah, but why would they sell? Like
because they're all really low. Well, I know what you mean. So like, I would say the reasoning, if I was looking at it, would be okay. Well, I either get Square Enix with just the stuff that makes the most money within the company right now, or I pick up Square Enix with 3 others that have 1,100 employees that are producing under 7%, sometimes 4% margins that I now have to deal with before moving on just to be able to acquire some IPs. Maybe it's just, I just care about, maybe people look at it and go, what do I care about Square Enix? Final Fantasy. Fuck everything else. I just care about Final Fantasy. And maybe that's like their play.
Yeah, but I mean, 14% profit margin isn't like god awful if everything is paid for.
I think it's 5 to 10% below industry benchmark is what I remember seeing. So it's not. You're right. It's not like it's not like they're 2%.
They're going bankrupt or anything.
No.
They're still making money.
Yeah.
They might be just trimming the fat. But here's the reason why I don't think they're going to sell is they're taking the $300 million and they're reinvesting it into a bunch of shit for Square Enix. So like if you're going to sell, you're not going to reinvest. You're selling to then sell. You're not going to sell. Go and dump a bunch of money into a speculative market and then try and have a buyer to pick up all of your fuck ups.
Yeah, that's
chances
fair.
are, I think they just sold off their assets that they just aren't interested in, and maybe there's another company that thinks that they can do more with it or take it in a different direction. And then they're just like, yeah, let's just stick to what's working and make some maybe new IP. I don't fucking know.
Yeah, or just more Final Fantasy, which is probably what's going.
Probably just more Final Fantasy.
That's Square. It makes me so sad. Square Enix really hasn't like, other than Final Fantasy 14, which was saved by Yoshi P. As we all, most people know the story behind Yoshi P saving that game. Other than that, I don't know what Square Enix has done that's even remotely positive. Everything
Not
else has
anytime
been
soon. I mean, it's been like 15 years since Square Enix has been like the shit.
Like, how do you have Final Fantasy 14 and be putting out Final Fantasy 7 Remake and these other like major Kingdom Hearts and things that actually do sell millions of copies, and then turn out that your entire division only has a 14% profit margin? I think that does indicate, especially since they were very selectively removing the Western side of things. Yeah. I think it does indicate that they have a bit of a management problem. They don't really know how to handle some of the intellectual property that they have to turn it into more efficient money. And I think that given what we're seeing them talk about investing their $300 million into, they're looking for a quick out. They're looking for something fast. Now, somebody might say, oh, well, blockchain and NFTs are a future-looking thing. Well, if you've looked at what the market is right now, it ain't looking the future at all. It's looking dead.
Even if it is, it's not like they can't afford to do it anyway. It's clear that they just don't want these properties. They want to slim down. Maybe they just want to focus in on what's really working and give it all their attention, and then make those things better.
That's ideal.
It's $300 million. Like that's to get rid of Tomb Raider, Deus Ex, Thief, and others. It seems like a steal for somebody if they know what the fuck they're doing. So it almost seems like they gave a deal, and they just want to get rid of it. And they felt as though, hey, we can make $300 million now, or we can keep scraping the paint here, and maybe we'll make $300 million off these IPs over the next decade, if we're lucky, if everything works out. But it just seems like they have better plans for the money. And when I say better plans, NFTs and cloud.
I'm surprised they didn't say the metaverse. Honestly, I'm surprised they didn't squeak that in there.
They should have. They should have just done it all, right? They should have just done it all.
Hit every single one of them. But yeah, and speaking of the metaverse, not that I have it in the list, but like just to give you like an idea of how little $300 million is in, I want to spend money on shit that nobody really gives a fuck about, but we need to do it anyway. Meta, so Facebook, for those of you not keeping track at home, has, as of last year, when they first bought into doing their shit that looks worse than like Wii Sports Resort for the metaverse, they spent $10 billion. Yeah. And then just this year, in the last quarter, again, on a thing that looks and functions no better than Wii Sports Resort, was another couple $billion.
Yeah.
The only people winning there are the people that are working for the companies that Meta is dumb enough to hire and have them convince Meta that their work is worth billions of dollars on this thing that's not new, is not breaking any new ground, doesn't look the part, doesn't play the part, doesn't anything, for over $10 billion in a calendar year.
$300 million ain't shit. It just isn't shit these days.
No. So anyway, good luck to Square Enix. I mean, because Square Enix still has lots of titles I give a fuck about. It's just they're approaching. They're not Konami yet, Mr. Black, but they are on the great graph of life. They are approaching asymptotically the bottom, because zero would be Konami. So we're getting there. Nobody can be as bad as Konami, but it can in infinite ways approach Konami's bottom line of zero, and it's getting closer. We'll see how it all pans out here in probably the next couple of years. Honestly, that $300 million out the window, and see if they do in fact sell out or just continue to ride the wave of Final Fantasy XIV.